you see the CM Punk tweeted something out?
I did not.
Hold on, let me go to this. I saw it on the Cult of Cornette Facebook group, so give me a second to go there.
And by the way, get well wishes to Larry. He tore his ACL. Poor baby's in a cast.
Cousin Larry?
No, Larry Talbot, Punk's dog.
His dog tore his ACL?
His dog tore his ACL.
Was it in a fight with some...
I think he was kicking the shit out of Kenny again.
CM Punk tweeted out yesterday, or not tweet, excuse me, Instagram, sometimes your value isn't seen until your absence is felt.
Well, there you go. We know now that he was pretty much the only one holding anything together in terms of a palatable, watchable wrestling program with shit that might draw money on a serious basis. Because ever since the week that he departed, it's been pretty much shite ever since and getting worse.
It's about who has Tony's ear. When it was CM Punk and people like MJF with input, things were really good. When Tony's surrounded by who now?
Who the fuck's going to take credit for any of this?
Bryan Danielson, Will Washington, Jimmy Jacobs. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Look at the state of this show. It's awful.
I've worked with Jimmy Jacobs in the past, and I like him. I don't want to blame any of this on him just blindly. If I knew for sure that he was responsible for any of it, I would slander him. But we don't know. Will Washington, I don't know what this fucking guy is even, because now we find out he's Swerve's cousin and he said good shit about Tony's booking on the internet. That's why he got a job.
That's right.
And I mean, certainly God Danielson's not sitting down going, hey, let's make Max Caster and fucking MJF look as stupid as possible. I don't think he's responsible for that. I'd like to know who has their finger in what around there to know who to blame, but ultimately it's Tony.
You know, in this era where kayfabe is dead, it's in the dictionary. It's dead. Do you think wrestlers should take credit? Like it should be a rule, like, okay, if you have input in your booking, you have to let people know so they can blame you.
No, I think we should try to get the programs to the point where nobody had to take any blame because everybody kind of at least liked most of it. But no, I don't think there should be technical credits. Somebody asked that here a while back on Twitter. There should be technical credits for wrestling programs. A cameraman, sound man, like any football game, baseball game, whatever, that's broadcast on television. There should never be credits for match producers and matchmakers or bookers or writers or whatever the fuck they call them these days. You should never know that there is anything other than a company matchmaker that actually has the last word in signing the talent contracts and making the matches. Basically, there are any kind of technical credits, but for matchmaker, booker, writer, whatever they call them these days on the creative team, no credits for a television broadcast of wrestling that wouldn't be done for boxing or UFC or goddamn baseball or football. Because nobody needs to know any closer than that what's going on. When David Copperfield did his show in Las Vegas, at the end of it, did he have the goddamn guy that built the box that he put the woman in to saw her in half come out and take a fucking bow?
No, he stole the credit.
Well, there you go.
To the point, though, of the Instagram message, or not message, but Instagram post, sometimes your value isn't seen until your absence is felt. Where do you think we'll see Punk next, WWE or AEW? Because Tony, I would bet Tony probably recognizes that things were better when he was dealing with Punk, despite all the problems Punk had with everyone else who aren't doing anything to help the show or the ratings or anything else. I'll bet you at some point Tony will reach out.
I think he might, but I think that CM Punk is probably finished with dealing with Tony Khan in this lifetime. Because life is too short to have a person like that in yours. I've said that about a number of people. That's why that they don't exist to me in the world anymore. And I think that Punk is probably saying that about Tony Khan and or AEW. If Tony went on a spree one day and fired everybody in the elite, or maybe if he kept Twinkle Toes around for laughs, I don't know if there was particular heat there, but if he fired the rest of the elite and their doppelgangers, minions, and hangers-on, got about 15 of them out of there, and then called Punk, then Punk may speak to him. I don't know. But I think that right now the sense of relief is on Punk's head, and the sword of Damocles is hanging over Tony's neck.
Well, Jim, right now AEW fans may feel confused. You know, for a long time, people like us were talking about the problems at AEW that were on camera and behind the scenes, and a lot of people ignored a lot of the problems. And now no one can ignore it. And no one is ignoring it. And while Tony's going to have to deal with trying to get ratings, he's also going to have to deal with the fact that it seems like he's lost Meltzer and the smart fans. And that could cause someone to go crazy and do crazy things, like sign Ric Flair and Adam Copeland and The Big Show, and all of a sudden make it WWE. I guess what I'm saying is if you're an old school AEW fan of 5 years ago, you may not recognize what you see on Dynamite. You may want to sue.
If you're a human being that speaks the English language, you may not recognize what you just heard for the last 45 seconds from Brian Last as he uttered word after word, trying to not finish a sentence until he came out with a way that he could transition to an advertising and or commercial spot for this fine man.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. He'll sue the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we say a lot of things like get even with Stephen, and if you need to sue, call Stephen P. New. But if you're confused about Brian's transition, you're not the only one, and maybe you want to sue your favorite podcast host for misrepresenting the pitch to the commercial. Whatever the case, you know that our friend Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE, the number to call, toll free, as they say in the industry. Are you going to argue with my phone number?
I was giving you time, so you got it out of your system before
You're giving me all the rope so I could hang myself. Well, that's the number, 877-50-STEVE, that you need to call if you have been in any way wronged, wrongfully terminated, damaged, injured. If you've been killed, get on the phone right away and call newlawoffice.com. They can compensate you in a court of law. They can get you compensated. They can bring you justice of a gaveling kind. Boom, the judge is going to go, this is my ruling. You got to pay this fellow, represented by Stephen P. New, all kinds of money because he proved his case. That's what you hear all the time. Don't you hear that, Brian? You've heard that many times.
No.
A judge gavel and say that.
I haven't heard that, no.
Well, yeah, it's because, you've never done anything right.
What?
But nevertheless, other people have. They've retained the services of Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE, for the wrongful terminations, the damages, the injuries, the malfeasance, the malpractice, and the malodor of some people's behavior. Stephen P. New can rectify other people's behavior on your behalf. Wouldn't you like to have some other people's behavior rectified, Brian?
I would like to have the phone number rectified. Of course, 877-507-8383 for you and for me. See, there we go. There's a rhyme for the jingle. Stephen P. New.
550-STEVE. He'll never leave.
No, he'll leave when you want him to leave.
Well, he won't leave until he's done fighting for your rights to party.
You make him sound like one of these delivery people from one of the things we play. He won't leave.
He's one of the Beastie Boys.
All right. Well, Beastie Steve is available at 877-507-8383.